Okay, welcome everybody to Coffee and Art in the Morning. It's hump day. It's hump day. There goes Phil. Mike. Okay, so anyway, today I think I pulled this out. Also helps the camera focus. But I think we're going to decorate the pumpkin. But I think we'll do that on a second segment. We'll see how much time we have. Because they might have it under dromedary, Eileen. I said something about drawing my Inktober a camel because I'm using kanji symbols for my inspiration for Inktober this year. And camel was not in here, so let me look up dromedary. I don't know. It's not very complicated. No. It's got very basic things here, Eileen, so I don't know, but I'll look. No dromedary. So there's no camel or dromedary. So anyway, um, that's what I'm doing for Inktober. I'm keeping them very simple, very simple. So what I want to do today is I want to collage. I have some things pulled out for. Let me make sure my right light's not flashing here. Something's flashing. White ballads. I don't know. Something's flashing here. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do in the second segment after I show some books. Sorry, I got a little discombobulated. I'm reading chat and everything else. There's nothing that complicated. There's no like Japanese words or anything. It's very simplified, Terry. Very simplified. Yes, no, yeah, Eileen. So anyway, I'm going to show some books. I'm not going to review them. I'm not going to review books. I'm just going to show them, maybe talk about what the description of the book is on the book. Some of the books I liked. There's one or two that I haven't finished, and I probably don't even remember what two they were. And I only pulled out some books. I mean, trust me, there's so many books I like and love, but I pulled out couple stacks from downstairs and haul them up to the art studio just for you guys. All right. So I'll start with a couple that I mentioned yesterday. Let's see, these two, this one. Okay, so here's a couple that I mentioned yesterday. I talked about detective. I don't read a lot of fiction anymore. I just don't have time because I have so many nonfiction that I want to read. But this is one of my favorite. The Bookman's Wake. Let me see. This is probably going to be distracting. The Bookman's Wake. Are we zoomed in enough? Maybe we need to. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And what it is, it's a retired policeman that owned a bookstore, but he still solves mysteries. Now, I know there's a lot of this type of like bookstore mystery solving things out now. This was, oh my gosh, just awesome. Let's see if I can see when it came out. It came out in 1995. So you can see. That's a good one, Daisy. Hey, Vicky, Daisy. Anybody else popping in? And I'm sure if y'all have read any of them, and I'll try to catch them. I know when I'm reading, it's kind of like when you're doing watercoloring, it's hard to kind of keep up with chat. They showed the donkey and camel as the same kanji. Okay, Suzanne. Let me write that down. But then you know what? Though I don't want to confuse anybody. Here's the thing, Suzanne. If I drew a camel and had a kanji with I'd never hear the end of it. Oh, that's not a camel, it's a donkey I don't want any confusion. So, but thanks. Yeah, thanks. So anyway, I will read a little bit about some of the books. Again, I'm not going to review them. I just want y'all to know what they're about. I love this one. And then I also have the Bookman's Promise. And Cliff Janeway is his name. This is the first one. I think this was the second one. No, Book to Die. Okay, wait a minute. This was the third one. Let me take this back. This is the second one. Book to Die, which I didn't bring up here. I just brought up these two. Book to Die was the first one. Bookman's Wake, I believe, was the second. And the Bookman's Promise is the third. So I know that there's at least 3. I don't think there's any more. He's got other books, but I think as far as the Cliff Janeway, I think those are the only 3. And again, I read them 95. This one was in 2004. So this is probably the last one. So he's got other books too. But Book to Die, Bookman's Wake, and then the Bookman's Promise. Those are the 3. So I'll just read a little bit about it. Denver Rare Bookman Cliff Janeway is back. So this is the second one. Rarely does a book inspire such critical praise and word-of-mouth excitement as did John Dunning's first Cliff Janeway novel, Book to Die. Hail both for the power of the writing and for its revelations of the arcane but absorbing world of rare books. Book to Die has itself become a treasured find in the collectible book market. Now John Dunning, John Dunning's author, Cliff Janeway, is the character. Now John Dunning has surpassed Book to Die with a richly nuanced novel that is surely to take him to an even more exalted level of acclaim. The story starts and ends aptly with a book, a very special book, a 1969 edition of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, published by the tiny, prestigious Grayson Press of North Bend, Washington. No bibliography mentions the 1969 edition, if it indeed exists. It could be worth a fortune to the right collector. It's a kind of book somebody might kill for. In fact, somebody probably already has. So I've just read that much of it. So anyway, it's all about rare books, I think they call them book snakes, people that not just book hounds, but anyway. It's been a while since I read them. So again, I can't really give reviews because it's been years since I read them. Again, I think Book to Die, the first one came out in could have been 89 or 90. This one's 95, 2004. So if you like mysteries and you like books, which probably everybody that reads a lot does, these 2 or 3 are awesome. Now you probably won't be able to find the Book to Die anymore because it's a rare book. The first one you could have to find it either at the library or a paperback, or maybe Etsy or eBay or something like that. Hey May. So I'm going to have a lot of books about books here. But these 2 are awesome detective mysteries. I love these. 2 other of my favorite mystery writers are Martha Grimes, and she writes other things too. So remember, guys, I got 2 authors here, English mystery writer authors here. I'm getting ready to show you that write other things too. But the ones that I like the most are their detective series. Like this one's Richard Jury mystery. Martha Grimes writes about Richard Jury, who is a Scotland Yard detective, and he's had all kinds of problems in his life. They have backstories. I would recommend in this one and the next one to at least read the first couple in sequence so you get the backstories of them. After that, it doesn't matter so much the sequence you read them in, but the first 2 or 3, and I think there's probably 20, maybe more. It's kind of like the Outlander series, which I have those as well. I didn't bring those up, but there's so many of them. So Martha Grimes writes Richard Jury mysteries, and they're all named after pubs in England. Now, I don't know if they're real pubs. I don't know if they were at one time and no longer. I have no idea. If you're in UK and you know of the pub called the Grave Maurice, then, But all her Richard Jury books are named after pubs in the UK. So that's her right there. And I don't know what date this one is. I don't know how many I have of hers, because I love Martha Grimes. This one right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's like 18 listed here, and I don't know that this is the newest, right? So, but she does have other books, so you have to look for Richard Jury. Yes, I'm talking books for a while. Yes, Tatiana. I already talked about, now I'm not going to keep repeating them, so you'll have to watch the recordings, but I already talked about John Dunning's books, and now I'm talking some mysteries here first. In a pub called the Grave Maurice, Melrose Plant is his wealthy, like, very wealthy friend who owns, like, not a castle. What do they call them? They don't. What do they call them, Dot, in UK? Lots of land and big house. He owns the big house. I don't know. I forget. It's been a while since I read these two. Anyway, a Melrose Plant is his wealthy friend that always helps Richard Jury on his cases. Okay, because Melrose Plant's very sophisticated. He can get in places that Richard Jury can't. And so he has like connections. So Richard Jury always gets his friend Melrose Plant to help him get into those sophisticated upper crust type of murder mysteries, And so, I know, Tatiana. All right, Diva. There's the Diva. Now she wants to come in here and talk. If you want to come up here, you'll have to jump up here. She won't let me pick her up. In a pub called the Grave Maurice, Melrose Plant overhears one woman telling another the intriguing story of a 15-year-old girl named Nell Ryder, granddaughter of the owner of Ryder's Stud Farm in Cambridgeshire, the heart of Britain's racing world. The girl was abducted nearly 2 years before and has never been heard from since. No word from her kidnappers, no ransom demand, just disappeared. Her family has pretty much given up hope, all except for Nell's stepbrother, Vernon Rice, a financial virtuoso with an investment firm in the city. He refuses to believe she's dead and insists that someday she'll just walk in. So anyway, there's the first paragraph. And like I said, I think there's probably about 20 I spent like a year. When I found Martha Grimes, I read, there was probably about 10 in the books that were already, maybe 5 or 8, that were already out by the time I found her. So I immediately read all of those and then started collecting them up as I went. Yeah, like a country estate. Yes, exactly, Francis. A country estate. Like that. That's what his friend Melrose Plant has, like a country estate. But he lives there, I think, all the time. But Richard Jury's the Scotland Yard detective. So Martha Grimes, she's one of my favorites. The other one of my favorites is Laurie R King. Now, if you look up Laurie R King, make sure to put the R in there. I won't say why, but there's another Laurie King, and it's not this one. So if you look her up, put in Laurie R King. And Laurie R King, and I've read all of hers. Well, I think there's one out now that I haven't read because I lost track of some of the the newer ones. But I follow her on Instagram. And anyway, so Laurie R King writes Mary Russell and Sherlock Holmes mysteries. And she's another British author. Mary Russell is Sherlock Holmes's wife. She writes from the perspective of Sherlock Holmes' wife. And they're just awesome. So if you like Sherlock, and she's not like one of those ones that are really, when they write about Sherlock Holmes or like try to do Sherlock Holmes takeoffs that are kind of cheesy or no. She does it well, and I've read all the Sherlock Holmes books. So if you like Sherlock Holmes, you only know how to search without. Well, go look for it, Tatiana. Tatiana, you would be one to do so. Okay, so anyway, let's see if it's got a picture of her. Okay, so this one I got from a library sale. So there's how I kept all my little things, all my little receipts and everything. I got this from a library sale. So anyway, Laurie R King, there she is right there. And in the case that will push their relationship to the, and wait, let me tell you which one this is, because there's a whole bunch. Okay, so all right, so here's the first one in the Laurie King, The Beekeeper's Apprentice. Make sure and read that one first because that really does set the stage up. No, he wasn't, Francis. He wasn't married, but that's what this is about. You know, what if? What if he was? That's what these books are. It's really awesome. Just read The Beekeeper's Apprentice. And when they met, I think Mary Russell, she was like 15 and Sherlock was like 30. He was like, it's almost like you'd have to read it. But it's called The Beekeeper's Apprentice. That's the first one. And you really need to read that. But as of this book, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, this is like the 8th one. And there's more. There's probably about 12 or 15. I'm not sure how many there are now. I just grabbed one off the shelf in no particular order, so I didn't know which order this one was in. For Mary Russell and her husband Sherlock Holmes, returning to the Sussex coast after 7 months abroad was especially sweet. There was even a mystery to solve: the unexplained disappearance of an entire colony of bees from one of Holmes' beloved hives. But the anticipated sweetness of their homecoming is quickly tempered by a galling memory from her husband's past. Mary had met Damien Adler only twice before, when the promising surrealist painter was charged with and exonerated from murder. Now the talented and troubled young man is enlisting their help again, this time in a desperate search for his missing wife and child. When it comes to communal behavior, Russell, the author, has often observed that there are many kinds of madness, and before this case yields its shattering solution, she'll come into dangerous contact with a fair number of them. So anyway, Mary Russell is supposedly Sherlock Holmes' wife. Laurie King's the author. Okay, I missed something on May. Said something. Okay, so I don't know. Is that May? No, somebody had to change their name because I couldn't get in. I had to get on their iPad. Okay, so hey Teresa, Crafting Chaos. So Laurie R King, and like I said, there's probably 15. I forgot how. I should have counted them, but I didn't have time, guys, this morning. I just drug them all up here. And Martha Grimes. These are my two favorite at this time, or well, my all-time, I guess, favorite British mystery writers. So I wanted to show you that. And then the John Dunning Book to Die was the first one. Bookmans Wake and Bookman's Promise. This trilogy, I love. The Cliff Janeway. So there's those. All right, so there's a couple there. Wait for it, people. All right, let me show some other books that I just pulled off the shelf that I like. And I just got, let's see, I got 5, 10. I have about 15. I pulled about 15 books because that's all I felt like carrying up and down the stairs. Books and art, you say, yeah, Prisma. Okay. So like I said, I'm not going to do reviews. I'm just going to tell you what they are, read a little bit of the, cover, and we're going to go on. This one's called The Illuminator, a novel by Brenda Rickman van Treese. Okay, so let me read a little bit to you. All right, this one is really tiny. It's England, it's late 14th century, a time when the whim of a lord or the pleasure of a bishop can seal nearly anyone's fate. Am I doing it dramatic enough? Oh, let me tell y'all, maybe I should give y'all, I don't need to give y'all ISBNs. If y'all cannot find something and need an ISBN, leave a comment in the comments on YouTube and I'll look it up for you. But otherwise, I'm sure you can find pretty much all these, except maybe the first John Dunning. I don't know, you might find it in paperback. But other than that, you'll probably be able to find any of these without an ISBN on Amazon, right? So, but I want to try, all right, so this one's 2005. I'll try to tell you the publishing date. Okay, so back to England in the late 14th century. The printing press has yet to be invented. Books written only in Latin or Norman French are rare and costly, painstakingly lettered and illuminated with exquisite paintings, far beyond the reach of ordinary people. But there are cracks in the old feudal order, and in the absolute power of the church. Finn, Finn, Finn is a master illuminator who works not only for the church but also in secret for the heretical Oxford cleric John Wycliffe. Under the nose of the powerful Abbot of Broomholm, Finn illuminates pages for Wycliffe in English translation of the Bible, meant to bring the Word of God to the masses. And Finn has another secret, one that will lead both himself and his beloved daughter into an ever-increasing peril. Lady Catherine, the mistress of Black... Am I reading it dramatic? I'm trying to I'm just trying to Lady Catherine, the mistress of Blackingham Manor, is a widow who finds herself caught between the king's taxes and the church's tithes. To protect her son's inheritance, she strikes a bargain with the abbot. Catherine will take in the illuminator and his daughter and gain the monastery's protection. What begins as a hesitant friendship between Finn and Lady Catherine grows into a passionate alliance that touches off a chain of betrayals, tragedies, and unexpected acts of heroism. Richly detailed and irresistibly compelling, The Illuminator is a glorious novel of love, art, religion, and treachery at an extraordinary turning point in history. The Illuminator. Okay? Dee Dee, read an excerpt using... Yeah, no, I can't do that because there's too many different ones, Prisma. I'd have to get in the character, and some of these books I haven't read in years, so I can't really do that. I can't get into character that quickly. Okay, and I'll just go through them. Some are nonfiction, some are fiction. Servants of the Map. Stories. That's what this is called. Andrea Barrett. This one is... I love the history of anything. The history of the compass. The history of spices. The history of... And I didn't bring all those books up. I'm just telling you, I like a lot of them. Let's see. 2002. Okay, 2002. You think so, Jen? Hey, and by the way, hi, Jen, Reading with Bugs. I get into it, so. This is exquisite new fictions by the award-winning author of Ship Fever and The Voyage of the Narwhal. Okay, that's the author. Ranging across 2 centuries and from the western Himalaya to and I always have a trouble saying this. Wait a minute, let me get it in my head. Adirondack. So I always think of the chairs. Adirondack. Okay, so ranging across 2 centuries and from the western Himalaya to an Adirondack village, these wonderfully imagined stories and novellas travel the territories of yearning and awakening, of loss and unexpected discovery. A mapper of the highest mountain peaks realizes his true obsession. A young woman afire with scientific curiosity must come to terms with romantic fantasy. Brothers and sisters torn apart at an early age are beset by dreams of reunion. Throughout Andrea Barrett's most characteristic theme, the happenings in that borderland between science and desire unfolds in the diverse lives of unforgettable human beings. Although each richly layered tale stands alone, readers who are already fans of Barrett will discover subtle links to characters of her earlier works, like Servants of the Map, and I have that too. I don't know if I brought it up here. The title story was selected for Best American Short Story of 2001. So anyway, that's what this one is. I have another one by her. Anyway, Servants of the Map. So this is the short stories about maps, obviously. Cartology. Okay. Next, and this is just like offbeat. I got this one. I got this one about a year ago. Will Eisner's Spirited Life. It's the history of the comic writer Will Eisner from the 20s through the war up till I think he died in late 80s, early 90s. I forget. But anyway, he's a very famous comic writer, artist, and I found this accidentally in a used bookstore in a little town in like no, it's not wasn't in Sonoa where they film The Walking Dead, but it was the same day that we went down to Sonoa to go to the restaurant and all there for The Walking Dead, city. And there's a little bookstore on the way back in a little town on the way back home because it's not far from my house. And I found it there, and I think I got it for $4. I got it for $4. So this was really good, and it's got. He's very well known if you're in the if you know comic books. Let me see. I was going to try to find something to show you. Probably not very helpful, but anyway, if you like biographies. I love biographies. I love history. I love mysteries too. But again, I don't have a lot of time to read fiction anymore. But I did read this. So yeah, so there's kind of some of his style right there. And it's by Bob and Endelman. And there's interviews and things like that. Okay, so that's just like one of the offbeat ones. The Friar and the Cipher. Roger Bacon and the Unsolved Mystery of the Most Unusual Manuscript of the World. This is the kind of stuff I love. Mystery, guys. I love history and mystery. So if there's a book about the two, then I'm all over it, right? So the Friar and the Cipher. Let me tell you the date first. 2005. This one's 2005. Okay, here we go. Y'all ready? Let me just get down here. The Voynich manuscript, there's always, speaking of this manuscript, there's always people trying to still solve it. The Voynich, and I might not be pronouncing it right, but I think I am. The Voynich, Voynich manuscript. A mysterious tome discovered, and it's true. This really is that's true. In 1912, by the English book dealer Wilfred Michael Voynich, has puzzled scholars for a century. A small 6-inch by 9-inch, but over 200 pages long, with odd illustrations of plants, astrological diagrams, and naked women, it is written in so indecipherable a language and contains so complicated a code that mathematicians, book collectors, linguists, and historians alike have yet to solve the mystery contained within. However, in The Friar and the Cipher, the acclaimed bibliophiles and historians Lawrence and Nancy Goldstone describe in fascinating detail the theory that Roger Bacon, the noted 13th century Copernican astronomer, was its author, and that the perplexing alphabet was written in his hand. Along the way, they explain that many proposed solutions that scholars have put forth and the myriad attempts at labeling the manuscript's content, from Latin to Greek shorthand to Arabic numerals to ancient Ukrainian to a recipe for the elixir of life to good old-fashioned gibberish. As we journey across centuries, languages, and countries, we meet a cast of impassioned characters and case crackers, including, of course, Bacon, whose own personal scientific contributors, voyage, author or not, were literally and figuratively astronomical. So there's that. And I have this bookmark for something. I think I was looking something up right there. I was looking up something right there. And then obviously I didn't finish, whatever it was that I was looking up. So anyway, The Friar and the Cipher, Lawrence and Nancy Goldstone. Oh, did you ever read the book about? Oh, it scrolled off. Let me see if I can find that. Somebody asked me, Did you read the book about the Amazon Splore? They just made a movie about it, and it might. I think so. Um, the one that was a photographer. Are you talking about the one that was a photographer? Uh, Hang on, I'm gonna go run get it just to see if this is the one you're talking about. Okay, I couldn't find it right off, and I didn't want to stay down there. It's got like a zebra cover to it. I should have found it right off. It has a zebra cover, but I don't know. Anyway, I couldn't find it because my books are stacked too deep. So, I didn't want to dig through. Okay, take a sip of coffee and we'll keep going. Okay, so probably, if that's not it, then I have another one called the Australians. These are the people that, like, explored Africa and Australia, like in the 20s, 1890s to 1920s, like in that era. No, I haven't seen that, Rebecca. Okay. God's Secretaries, The Making of the King James Bible, Adam Nicholson. I'm out of breath. Let me tell you the date. I love everything about books. 2003, okay? A net of complex currents flowed across Jacobean England. This was the England of Shakespeare, Johnson, and Bacon, of the gunpowder plot, the worst outbreak of plague England had ever seen. Arcadian landscapes, murderous, toxic slums, and above all, of sometimes overwhelming religious passion. Jacobean England was both more godly and less godly than it had ever been, and the entire culture was drawn taut between the polarities. This was the world that begat the King James Bible. It is the greatest work of English prose ever written, and in no coincidence that the translation was made at the moment enlightenedness and the English language had come into its first passionate maturity. Boisterous, elegant, subtle, majestic, finely nuanced. The sponsor and guide of the whole Bible project was the King himself. And then it goes on to describe the king. But anyway, so this is about the secretaries. There they are there. Yeah. So that's what this one is. God's Secretaries. Middlesex was also a good book. Everybody's talking about other books that they like. Okay, so let's keep going. The Historian. This one, 2005. I need to get back to some of my books are, I don't know, I just pulled these off the shelf. I guess this was a good time in my life of big chunks of reading. Okay. To you, perceptive reader, I bequeath my history. Late one night, exploring her father's library, a young woman finds an ancient book and a cache of yellowing letters. The letters are all addressed to my dear and unfortunate successor. And they plunge her into a world she never dreamed of, a labyrinth where the secrets of her father's past and her mother's mysterious fate connect to an inconceivable evil hidden in the depths of history. The letters provide links to one of the darkest powers that humanity has ever known, and to centuries-long quest to find the source of that darkness and wipe it out. It is a quest for the truth about Vlad the Impaler, the medieval ruler whose barbarous reign formed the basis of the legend of Dracula. Generations of historians have risked their reputations, their sanity, and even their lives to learn the truth about Vlad the Impaler and Dracula. Now one young woman must decide whether to take up this quest herself, to follow her father in the hunt that nearly brought him to ruin years ago, when he was a vibrant young scholar and her mother was still alive. What does the legend of Vlad the Impaler have to do with the modern world? Is it possible that the Dracula of myth truly existed, and that he has lived on century after century, pursuing his own unknowable ends? The answer to these questions cross time and borders. At first the father and then the daughter search for the clues, from dusty Ivy League libraries to Istanbul, Budapest, and the depths of Eastern Europe. In city after city, in monasteries and archives, in letters and secret conversations, the horrible truth emerges about Vlad the Impaler, dark reign, and about a time-defying pact that may have kept his awful work alive down through the ages. Parsing obscure signs and hidden texts, reading codes worked into the fabric of medieval monastic traditions, the evading and unknown adversaries who will go to any lengths to conceal and protect Vlad's ancient powers. One woman comes ever closer to the secret of her own past and a confrontation with the very definition of evil. Elizabeth, okay, so this is her debut novel, so I'm sorry I missed something that Prisma said. It scrolled off. Sounds much more intriguing when Dee reads it. So that's the historian. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's see what else. Okay, hang on. The Art Detective. Fakes, frauds, and finds, and the search for lost treasures. Philip Mould. And it was 2009. Okay, so y'all can put things in cast, but if I'm reading, I'm obviously not reading chat much. Okay. The art world has never seemed quite so treacherous, so beguiling, and so much fun. I don't want to try to put too much spin on my inflection, but I just get into it. There is something addictive about eBay. Any moment, day or night, you could find a steal. But how do you know what's undervalued? How can you tell the difference between a priceless masterpiece and a piece of junk? Philip Mould, one of the stars of the original Antique Roadshow, has been so successful in uncovering buried treasures that the media has dubbed him the Art Detective. Now, at last, he lets us in on his secrets. Each chapter revolves around a particular painting and the people who helped unmask its identity. A Norman Rockwell faked by an amateur artist from Vermont, trapped in a messy divorce. A Winslow Homer watercolor that mysteriously found its way to a dump in Ireland. A Rembrandt self-portrait disguised by so many layers of overpainting that was unrecognizable. A long-lost Gainsborough that Mould spotted misidentified at an auction in L.A. Mould is our trusty detective, tracking down clues and following hunches until the truth is revealed. A superb storyteller, he will have you hooked as he uncovers unexpected victims, reconstructs the crime scene, and identifies the master's hand. The Art Detective is a memoir, art history, and brilliant yarn all rolled into one. And that's him right there. I think he's the co-host of that British. It's from BBC, but I see it on PBS. It's like Art Detective show. But anyway, so it's called The Art Detective. Is this interesting? Okay. All right. Next, Vermont's Enigma. And Anybody by Simon Singh is awesome. Anything you find by Simon Singh. the epic quest to solve the world's greatest mathematical problem. And I know if you, I like math, I like geometry. Algebra baffles me, and nobody's been able to explain it to me. So it kind of like, but I love geometry because it's visual. Terry Charles, it makes me yell. So, yeah. Perhaps I could best, all right, well, it's a paperback, so I'm probably not going to have much to read. 1997. I guess I could read a little bit of the foreword. Let's read of the preface. Here. The story of Fermat's, and it might be Fermat's, I don't know, the Fermat's last theorem is inextricably sorry guys, sometimes I try to read faster than my brain can pronounce, linked with the history of mathematics, touching on all the major themes and of number theory. It provides a unique insight into the drives. Let me slow down. It provides a unique insight into what drives mathematics and, perhaps more important, what inspires mathematician. The last theorem is at the heart an intriguing saga of courage, skullduggery, cunning, and tragedy, involving all the greatest heroes of mathematics. Fermat's last theorem has its origin in the mathematics of ancient Greece, 2,000 years before Pierre de Fermat constructed the problem in the form as we know it today. Hence, it links the foundations of mathematics. And anyway, I know y'all probably going, oh, like rolling your eyes. Anyway, it was a mathematical problem that existed that he solved. Okay? All right, so there's that. The map that changed the world. Okay, let's see what date this one is. 2001. So y'all can. Okay. The map that changed the world. William Smith and the birth of modern geology. Okay, don't care what this say, pies are not square. Eileen. Okay. And I have this book too, from the best-selling author of The Professor and the Madman. That's awesome too. I don't think I brought that one up, but that's good too. The Professor and the Madman. Comes a fascinating story of William Smith, the orphan son of an English country blacksmith, who became obsessed with creating the world's first geological map and ultimately became the father of modern geology. In 1793, William Smith, a canal digger, made a startling discovery that was to turn the fledgling science of the history of the earth and a central plank of established Christian religion on its head. He noticed that the rocks he was excavating were arranged in layers. More important, he could see quite clearly that the fossils in one layer were very different from those found in another. And of that realization came an epiphany, that by following the fossils, one could trace layers of rocks as they dipped and rose and fell, clear across England, and indeed clear across the world. Determined to publish his profoundly important discovery by creating a map that would display the hidden underside of England, he spent 20 years traveling the length and breadth of the kingdom by stagecoach and on foot, studying rock outcrops and fossils, piecing together the image of this unseen universe. In 1815, he published his epic and remarkably beautiful hand-painted map, more than 8 feet tall and 6 feet wide. But 4 years after its triumphant publication, with his young wife growing steadily mad to the point of, well, she had mental issues. I won't go into all that description there. He was swindled out of his recognition and his profits. He left London for the north of England and remained homeless for 10 long years as he searched for work. It wasn't until 1831 when his employer, a sympathetic nobleman, brought him back into contact with Geographical Society of London, which had earlier denied him a fellowship, and at last, this quiet genius was showered with the honors long overdue him. He was summoned south to receive the Society's highest award, and King William IV offered him a lifetime position. So anyway, there we go. I don't care what it's... Oh, okay. Lord help me. All these covers could be used. So anyway, the map that changed the world. Okay, hang on, guys. All right, a few more here. Okay, now this one's a little off topic, but one of the reasons I want to show you this. This is Biz Stone. He's the creator of Twitter. I bought this when it first came out. It was kind of expensive. It was like 26 bucks for a pretty small. But anyway, now the reason I want to tell you all this is at Books A Million, this book is on sale on clearance for under five or under. So if you want to read the history of Twitter, Books A Million's got stacks of this. I don't know why. I mean, I thought it was pretty good. Things a Little Bird Told Me, and it's Biz Stone is the co-founder of Twitter. So if y'all want to know all about your tweets, I found it interesting. Biz Stone, the co-founder of Twitter, discusses the power of creativity and how to harness it. Through stories of his remarkable life and career. And so, well, y'all know the history. I mean, y'all know Twitter, so I won't get into that. But yeah, Things a Little Bird Told Me, Confessions of the Creative Mind, and he talks about it's like his biography. Okay, so then The Riddle of the Compass, Amir D. Axel. And this is also the person that wrote Fermat's last theorem. So, yeah, any book by Amir is awesome. I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on chat. Okay, so this one, and it's called The Riddle of a Compass, the invention that changed the world. 2001. Okay? Amir, and I'm probably not pronouncing his name correctly, but Amir D. Axel, Aczel, the distinguished science writer turns detective as he uncovers the fascinating story of the invention of the compass. It's a fabulous tale of Chinese lodestones directing the building of palaces and ancient mariners following the flights of birds to reach their destinations. The arrival of the compass in Europe and understanding of its potential revolutionized trade in the Mediterranean and ushered in the great age of exploration. Tracking down the roots of the compass and telling the story of navigation through the ages, Axel instructs and charms as never before. Amir Axel is known for his ability to write delightful books about hard topics in math and science, and this is the book he was born to write. Raised on ocean liners by his ship captain father, the young Axel stood at the helm and steered ships through the Mediterranean. His experience adds depth and resonance to the telling of his terrific story. That's The Riddle of the Compass. Axel, you'd pronounce it like Axel? Okay. Thanks, Tatiana. Axel. Okay. Okay, let me get a couple more here. I got about 8 more. Okay. The Island of Lost Maps, a true story of cartographic crime. Miles Harvey. I love anything like this. Mystery and history together. So I'm all over it. 2000, is it 2000? Yeah, 2000. Okay, let's see what I can get to the preface. Oh, does it have one? So I can read a little bit about it. There's the intro. Okay, I'll just read a little bit here. Strange waters. Have y'all ever noticed all the things on maps, on old maps, not new maps, but like all the drawings and all the, the winds blowing and the ships and the monsters and all that. Y'all ever notice any of that? I'm sure you do. Okay, so it's quite an intro. I'll just see if I can highlight it. Explorers pin maps to their walls. Journalists tape stories to theirs. For both, doing so is a way of getting their bearings. As I sit down to write this book, the wall behind my computer is unadorned except for 2 photocopied articles, each of which helps me set the course for the journey ahead. The first one, which I ponder now while sipping coffee, is from a reference book called Who Was Who in World Exploration. And then he's reading a little bit from that, an excerpt from that book. A little bit about Shakespeare once used the term mappery to describe the passionate study of a map or chart. Talks about the first publications of maps. I'm trying to get to the meat of it here. Because it's quite a long introduction. The Portuguese controlled the Indies. Charts. The Dutch did not consider their ignorance about the Indies to be a pressing issue. The initial attempts to get to the east were by going north. Today the two brothers, or the Houtmans, were helping to define both the geographic and economic outlines of the modern world, but this probably never occurred to them. They were just a couple of businessmen trying to make a buck. Today the brothers are mostly remembered as explorers. In 1595, a year after returning from Portugal, Cornelius Houtman served as chief merchant on the first Dutch expedition to the East Indies. In 1598, he and his brother led another journey during which followers control the region. See, I'm trying to get maybe just the last paragraph. Looking down, I think. All right. I don't want to skip too much. Okay, here we go. Bland. Here we go. Hang on. But I was just as fascinated by the possibility that Bland was in it just for money. For centuries, thieves have reaped big rewards for catering to the peculiar needs of collectors. In our own culture, extensive black markets exist for everything from art to animals to sports memorabilia. But history offers some even more outlandish examples. In the 12th and again in the 16th century, for instance, the popularity of a medicinal elixir made from, of all things, the flesh of Egyptian mummies led to a booming business in grave robbing. Alas, poor Egypt, wrote Louis Rutner de Rosemont. Hey, come on in. After having known civilization at its zenith, after having sacrificed its all respect. Well, okay, that talks about the Egyptian. Come on up. You want to come up here? Come on. With our own tedious era sadly devoid of contraband pharaoh goo, Bland's alleged crime spree seemed to about as interesting as a subject as a writer, especially a writer. Come here, come here, come here. There's her tail. Let me get her head in here. Come here, come here. She doesn't want to come under the camera for some reason. Okay, so anyway, it's such a long explanation. Look it up on look this one up on Amazon. The Island of Lost Maps. This one's kind of old maps are cool. Ships, sea monsters. Yes. Okay, get off my phone there, little girl. All right. Did you stick your head under there and I missed it? I had my back to you. Okay. We call her the diva because you can't touch her. No touchy unless she comes and puts herself on you. You can't. I've never picked her up. She won't let you get near her. I've only had her for a couple months, so she's a rescue cat. Yeah, she's rescue. Okay. Ex Libris, Ross King. Let's see. 1998. All right, y'all ready for another little story here? The diva is like, I've got to say something. I know, right, Tatiana? Combining the historical urgency of Ian Pear's An Instance of the Finger Post with all the action of contemporary thriller, Ex Libris sweeps the reader into the maelstrom that was Europe following the English Civil War. A cryptic summons to a remote country house. Oh, there's the word country house again. A cryptic summons to a remote country house launches Isaac Inchbold, a London bookseller and antiquarian, on an odyssey through 17th century Europe. Charged with the task of restoring a magnificent library destroyed by the war. Moving between Prague and the Tower Bridge, Inchbold's fortunes and his very life hang on recovering a missing manuscript. But the lost volume is not what it seems, and his search is but a move in a treacherous game of underworld spies and smugglers, ciphers and forgeries. Whether transporting the reader to the sacks of Constantinople and Prague, Sir Walter Raleigh's last voyage in search of El Dorado, or a dive into a freezing river to escape three mysterious horsemen clad in black and gold, King, the author, grasps the reader with his vivid, evocative prose and refuses to let go until his tale is told. I think so too, Suzanne. We'll hope. So anyway, a finely wrought tale. King expertly leads his protagonist through a labyrinth of clues, discoveries, and dangers, all the while expertly detailing 17th century Europe's struggle over religion and knowledge. The world of the novel is satisfyingly complete, from its ornate syntax and vocabulary to the Dickensian names of its characters. It's I'm trying to put too much emphasis on words I got to take just a second to pronounce. The likable narrative is fully developed, and its fast-paced action is intricately conceived. Fans of literary thrillers, and then you'll love this, Publishers Weekly says that. Okay, so anyway, there's that one. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Galileo's Daughter. And David Sobel is also another one that anything you'll love. Okay, let me tell you a date here. 1999. Okay. Okay, so here's a quote by Galileo. I render infinite thanks to God for being so kind as to make me alone the first observer of marvels kept hidden in obscurity for all previous centuries. A little quote there. Inspired by a long fascination with Galileo and by the remarkable surviving letters of Galileo's daughter, a cloistered nun, David Sobel has written a biography unlike any other of the man Albert Einstein called the father of modern physics, indeed the modern science altogether. That's a quote by Einstein. Galileo's Daughter also presents a stunning portrait of a person hitherto lost to history, described by her father as a woman of exquisite mind, singularly goodness, and most tenderly attached to me. The son of a musician, Galileo, 1564 to 1642, tried at first to enter a monastery before engaging the skills that made him the foremost scientist of his day. Though he never left Italy, his inventions and discoveries were heralded around the world. Most sensationally, his telescopes allowed him to reveal a new reality in the heavens and to reinforce the astounding argument that the earth moves around the sun. For this belief, he was brought before the holy offices of the Inquisition, accused of heresy, and forced to spend his last years under house arrest. Of Galileo's three illegitimate children, the eldest best mirrored his own brilliance, industry, and sensibility, and by virtue of these qualities became his confidant. Born Virginia in 1600, she was 13 when Galileo placed her in a convent near him in Florence, where she took the most appropriate name of Maria Celeste. Her loving support, which Galileo repaid in kind, proved to be her father's greatest source of strength throughout his most productive and tumultuous years. Her presence, through letters which Sobel has translated from their original Italian and masterfully woven into the narrative, graces her father's life as it did then. Galileo's Daughter dramatically recolors the personality and accomplishment of a mythic figure whose 17th century clash with Catholic doctrine continues to define the schism between science and religion. Moving between Galileo's grand public life and Maria Celeste's sequestered world, Sobel illuminates the Florence of the Medici, Medicis, is that how you say it? The Medicis, and the papal court in Rome during the pivotal era when humanity's prescription of its place in the cosmos was being overturned. In that same time, while the bubonic plague wreaked its terrible devastation in the 30-year war, tipped fortunes across Europe, one man sought to reconcile the heaven he revered as a good Catholic with the heavens he revealed through his telescope. With all the human drama and scientific adventure, the distinguished, she also wrote Longitude. I have that too somewhere. She wrote that one as well. Galileo's Daughter is an unforgettable story. So anyway, there's that one. Does going through all these books make you want to go back? Some of them, some, Jen, because I haven't read some of these in years, since like 1990, 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and sometimes I have gone back because I want to research something. So I'll remember that something was in one of these, a book. And so, but yeah, sometimes I do. But here's the thing about when I go back to reread something, I remember it. I'll start reading, I'll go, okay, I remember now. So I might forget it, like right this minute, I couldn't tell you everything about it. But if I start reading it, then I'll remember it, Okay, next I have Calendar. David Ewing Duncan. And I'm really not familiar with this person, like I am David Sobel and others. Calendar, humanity's epic struggle to determine a true and accurate year. This one was 1998. Medici, thanks. I know, I could, it's in my head, Suzanne. Thank you, Medici. Thank you. Thanks for the phonetics. Okay, so, From the earliest recorded date, 4236 BC, people have tried to organize their lives according to the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, and have, for the most part, consistently gotten it wrong. In this irresistible volume, David Ewing Duncan takes us on an extraordinary journey through man's reckoning of time, ranging from one of the earliest calendars, a series of markings gouged into an eagle bone 13,000 years ago, to the atomic clocks of today, which measure time too well for an ever-slowing Earth. The adventure spans the world from Stonehenge to astronomically aligned pyramids at Giza, from Mayan observations at Chichen Itza to the atomic clock in Washington, the world's official timekeeper since the 1960s. We visit cultures from Vedic India and Cleopatra's Egypt to Byzantine and Elizabethan court, and meet an impressive cast of historic personages from Julius Caesar to Omar Khayyam and giants of science such as Galileo and Copernicus. Our present calendar system predates the invention of the telescope, the mechanical clock, and the concept of zero. And its development is one of the greatest untold stories of science and history. How did Pope Gregory set a calendar which was in error by at least 10 full days? What did time mean to a farmer on the Rhine in 800 AD? What was daily life like in the Middle Ages, when the general population reckoned births and marriages by seasons, wars, kings' reigns, and saints' days? In short, how did the world ever come to agree on what day it was? As our personal clocks tick faster and time becomes more precious each day, as we move toward the mathematically awesome threshold of a new millennium, remember this was before 2000, here is a fresh, stimulating volume that answers and raises a host of fascinating questions about the nature of human timekeeping and the majestic historical forces that have produced the miracle of the calendar. So there you go. The calendar, just calendar. All right, I need a sip of coffee here. Okay, I got 4 more that I brought up. Because I brought up, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 20. I brought about 20. I think I brought about 23, 24 books. So the last 4 that we're going to go through. Book Row. These are all about, now you're going to let, anybody who loves books is going to love these last 4. Okay, I think. Okay. Book Row, an anecdotal and pictorial history of the antiquarian book trade. Marvin Mondlin and Roy Meter. And this is, look what the inside looks like right there. It's got maps. It's all about Book Row. Okay. Let me tell you the 2003. Okay. Here we go. Y'all sticking with the tour? New York City builds history on its streets, and every corner has its story. This one unfolds just south of 14th Street in Manhattan, mostly on the 7 blocks of 4th Avenue, bracketed by Union Square and Astor Place. There, for nearly 8 decades, from the 1890s to the 1960s, thrived a bibliophile's paradise. They called it the New York Booksellers Row, or more commonly, Book Row. And this book's all about that. It's an American story, the story that this richly anecdotal historical memoir amiably relates. As Americans as the rag to riches tale of the Strand, which began its life in as a mere bookstall on 8th Street and today houses in excess of 2 million volumes, in parentheses, or 16 miles of books, on 12th. It's a story cast with characters as legendary and colorful as the horse-betting, poker-playing go-getter of a book dealer, George D. Smith, or the irascible Russian-born book hunter, Peter Stammer, or the visionary Theodore C. Schultz, or the Waverick twins, and don't email me if I'm pronouncing people's names incorrectly, guys. The twins and Brussels brothers, or Luke. Okay, names a whole bunch of different people involved. Book Row remembers names and places that all lovers, readers, buyers, sellers, and collectors of books should never forget. Okay, and then he names a whole bunch of the different book stores. Okay. Rising rent, street crime, urban redevelopment, television, and reasons that are many for the demise of Book Row, but in this volume, based on interviews with dozens upon dozens of the book people who breathed its rare bibliophorous air, it lives vibrantly again. And so, like, it has little maps, and it shows all the different bookstores, sellers, and it's just really cool. Anyway, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, there were some pictures in here. Well, there we go. So just different, it's got a lot of history of it. It's the whole history of Book Row. So if you're interested in New York Book Row, there you go. Okay, then I have A Splendor of Letters. Oh wait, let me try to get these. These are my I have other ones by Nicholas Basbanes, but these 3 I picked up. Let's see, what was the first one? I think the first one was A Gentle Madness. Okay, and it's a beautiful cover. I mean, I just look at that cover. Okay, This one, I think this is his first one of the ones I brought up. Second one, and this is the more recent one, I think. He might have other ones out now. I haven't kept up with old Nicholas Basbane. Okay, so this one came out 1995, and this is a first edition. This one right here. I got a lot of first editions. I love books. So when they come out and I like them, I grab them. There's a couple that I've missed, and I think, dang, I should have got that one. But whatever. Okay, Gentle Madness. The passion to possess books has never been more widespread than it is today. Indeed, obsessive book collector remains the only hobby to have a disease named after it. A Gentle Madness. That's the name of the book. A Gentle Madness is an adventure among the afflicted. Richly anecdotal and fully documented, it combines the perspective of historical research with the immediacy of investigative journalism. Above all, it is a celebration of books and the people who have revered, gathered, and preserved them over the centuries. Author Nicholas Basbane, a dedicated bibliophile himself, begins his book 2,200 years ago in Alexandria, when a commitment was made to gather all the world's knowledge beneath one roof. In a series of lively chapters, the continuum then passes through the Middle Ages and the Renaissance to the 20th century, with a special emphasis on book lore and book culture in Great Britain and North America. In the second half of A Gentle Madness, Basbane offers a gallery revealing profiles of living collectors and presents exclusive examinations of the great contemporary stories, the rare book thefts of Stephen Bloomberg, institutional bibliomania at the University of Texas, the mystery man who used 17 million of another person's money to gain recognition as the greatest book collector alive. These are just a few of the stories detailed for the first time. The book also includes the most comprehensive bibliography on book collecting compiled in more than a quarter of a century. So that one is A Gentle Madness. The next one here is Patience and Fortitude. I don't know if y'all know that those lions on the sides of the library, have you? Okay, they're named Patience and Fortitude. Okay, this one came out 2001. Okay, we're almost done, people. We'll get on to some art projects in a minute. In 1995, Nicholas Basbane introduced a resonant phrase to describe the obsessive passion people have had over the past 2,500 years to possess books, a condition more commonly known as bibliomania. One he christened in his book A Gentle Madness. Reviewing the work in the Washington Post, Pulitzer Prize winning critic, let's get past the accolades here. Now in Patience and Fortitude, Basbane continues his discursive adventures among the gently mad, expanding his focus to probe the more comprehensive concept of book culture. Visiting many of the book places around the world, he talks with a striking variety of kindred spirits, each one a living testament to the unending relevance of the essential artifacts in our lives. Drawing its tide from the unofficial names of the marble lions that guard the New York Public Library on Fifth Avenue and Manhattan, Patience and Fortitude explores the changing form of the book over the centuries and describes the nature of the institutions that have evolved to contain them, including academic, public, private, and national repositories. Using the same narrative technique that made A Gentle Madness a national bestseller, Basbane employs a lively balance of scholarly research and imaginative journalism to document many pertinent book stories that have never been told before, and offers unprecedented depth to others that have barely scratched the surface, picking up seamlessly where its predecessor left off, which was A Gentle Madness. Patience and Fortitude profiles the experiences and thoughts of all kinds of dedicated book people, be they librarians, readers, writers, bookmakers, booksellers, preservationists, or collectors. So that is patience and fortitude. And the last one here is a splendor of letters, the permanence of books in an impermanent world. And this one came out in 2003. Last one I'm going to show you. In A Splendor of Letters, Nicholas Basbane continues a lively, richly anecdotal exploration of book people, places, and cultures he began in 1995 with A Gentle Madness, a finalist of the year for the National Book Critics Award, and expanded in 2001 with Patience and Fortitude, a companion work that prompted the two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning historian and biographer. Basbane now offers a consideration of the many pressing issues that surround the role of books in a contemporary society, such as the willful destruction of books by libraries in Sarajevo, Tibet, Cambodia, and the spirited efforts to restore them. The matter of discards at various libraries takes on an entirely new dimension as well, with fully researched stories about the kind of attitudes that many lead to the loss of last copies of important works. In vivid detail, Basbane examines the many materials that have been used over the centuries to record information, among them clay tablets, papyrus, scrolls, slabs of stone, palm leaves, animal skins, hammered sheets of gold and copper. Also discussed are the various debates that continue to rage about preservation, which may mean saving and storing books on paper indefinitely or as electronic data, which are by nature ephemeral. In this beautifully packed edition, Nicholas Basbane brings to a close his wonderful trilogy on the remarkable world of books and bibliophiles. So, yeah, those are those three by Basbane. Okay, so there we go. Those are about 24, 25 books that we wanted to kind of discuss. Well, not really discuss, but like just show that, what's out there in history, exploration, books. Those are some of my favorite topics. I love histories and mysteries. So I'm going to stop this video and save it, and then we're going to make another video and we're going to decorate our pumpkin. So I'll be right back, guys.